see so many folks in the room today. Thank you so much for being here. I see a lot of old faces and a lot of new folks with us today. Really glad to have some new folks in the room. And I'm going to say hello to everybody out there on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us. Especially I can see that we have folks from Omaha, from Texas, and from Massachusetts out there. Great to see you. Always glad to have you guys in the room. Hello to the folks in this room. Rick Pagliari, hello. Thank you so much. Rick is also one of our musicians this week for the Archive Challenge Week. Glad to have you with us today. Deborah in Kentucky, hello. Lisa in Indiana, hello. Alan in DC, hello. Janet in Georgia, nice to see you. Adele in the DMV area. Doug in Vermont. Kathy in Virginia, hello. Kathleen in Albuquerque. Steve in Baltimore. Karen in Arizona. Luda in British Columbia. Nicola in the UK, great to have you with us today. Caroline in the DMV, hello. Bonnie in Idaho. Carol in the British Columbia area, hello. Steve Winnick, we're so glad you're in the room with us today. Thank you so much for being here. Nancy in Washington State. Busy Graham, hello. Executive Director of Carpe Diem Arts, our partner in this project, along with Steve Winnick and Jennifer Cutting from the Library of Congress, American Folklife Center, also partners this week. Lynn in Connecticut, hello. And hello to Mac and Janet and Peter in Toronto. Glad to see you guys today. And hello to Anne and Jane in Pennsylvania and Fred in Maryland. Anne, hello. Nice to see you today in the DMV area. Judy in Florida. Nice to see you today. Beryl in Chicago. Hello. Greg Lewis, Special Projects Director at Washington Rebels. Glad you're with us today too. James Clement in my living room. Hello. Nice to have you with us today. Harriet, great to see you today. Coming in, I think, from Chicago. And Dion, nice to see you today from Massachusetts. Carolyn in Idaho, hello. And lots more folks, David and Sleep Laboratory. That's an interesting name. I hope you're sleeping well. Doug in Vermont, hello. Sandy, nice to see you today in the Yukon. And Susan in Seattle. Clyde, just joining from North Carolina, hello. Lots of folks off video, Sarah and Sid and other folks. It's so glad that you're with us today. Thank you so much for being here. And hello again to everybody on Facebook Live. Glad you guys are with us today too. Welcome to the Washington Rebels Carpe Diem Arts Daily Antidote of Song for our second Archive Challenge Week, hosted with the Library of Congress American Folklife Center and our special hosts, Jennifer Cutting and Steve Winnick, who are both regular song leaders in this room. Thank you to everybody in this community for being here day after day. For those of you who are new to us, we are here every single day at noon. This week, we are celebrating our 225th day of singing together, one song every day, ease those isolation blues, and keep in mind all the important social justice issues that we've got going right now in our nation and around the globe. A couple of quick notes in the chat box. You will find my email in case you want to get on our Daily Antidote email list. You will also find a donation link. We are keeping this program going from donations from all of you. And all of the money you donate goes directly to the performing artists who are leading us in song. And finally, I would like to shout out a thank you to Binta Kulabali, our amazing tech person for the day. We're really giving her the run for her money today with lots of extra things she has to do. And I want to welcome Jennifer Cutting, who is today's co-host, and Steve Winnick, who is sort of like the pseudo sidekick co-host. Guys, I'm really glad you're here today. Welcome, Jennifer. Take care. You have to...
All right. Can you hear me?
Can, thank you.
Great. Hey, everybody. I was just paging through, seeing all of your faces, and hello to those on Facebook Live that I cannot see, but I can feel your presence. I'm Jennifer Cutting, as Joe said, and I'm a folklife specialist at the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress, which is, in case you didn't know, our nation's oldest federal cultural institution. Part of what I do at my job is something that appeared in Alan Lomax's job description way back when he was in charge of our archive from 1936 to 1942. And that thing in his job description was to reach out to folks in the creative community to interest them in the wonderful songs and tunes and stories that we have in our collections. So a little bit of history, not too much to bore you, but we're the largest archive of ethnographic materials in the US and one of the largest in the world. I won't give you the numbers because that will be boring, but you've heard of our better known performers in our collection, like Muddy Waters, Pete Seeger, Honey Boy Edwards, Woody Guthrie, Aunt Molly Jackson, Leadbelly, Doc Watson, Bill Monroe, Gene Ritchie, and the list goes on. But what you may not know is there are thousands and thousands of other fantastic tradition bearers that you've never even heard of. So in our quest to connect creative people to all this great material, we started a thing called the Archive Challenge. And in 2015, we were celebrating the centennial of American folklorist Alan Lomax, who, as I said, was head of our archive from 37 to 42. So I had to think of a way to carry that theme to the annual Folk Alliance International Conference in Kansas City, Missouri. So lots and lots of performing folk artists attend that conference every year. And I had to think of a way to interest them in our Alan Lomax collections. So I came up with the idea of having them do research in our collections and pick out songs and tunes that really floated their boat, and then perform those songs on a showcase stage. And I called it the Archive Challenge. Why the Archive Challenge? Well, archive, because I wanted to introduce performing folk musicians from all different genres to the treasures in the American Folklife Center archive. And challenge, because in a way, I was inviting artists to take me up on a dare. And that dare was daring them to use their own creativity to put their own stamp on these songs and tunes, and then to perform the results of their magical alchemy to an audience that would really get into both the archival material and the updated performances, kind of the idea of old wine in new skins, so to speak. So in order to find songs or tunes to perform, musicians had the choice of coming into the Folklife reading room at the Library of Congress, as today's guest Cissa Paz did, or doing their research long distance by using our many online collections. And so the result of this first archive challenge was that 17 very diverse artists brought our collection materials to life for a new audience. And, Steve Winnick, my partner in crime and my colleague at the Folklife Center, we emceed that show, and it was so successful. The rest is history. Folk Alliance invited us to co-sponsor an Archive Challenge concert at the conference every year. So then in 2017, 2018, and 2019, our public events coordinator, Thea Austin, invited us to bring the Archive Challenge home to the Library of Congress and do it at one of our homegrown concerts in our gorgeous Coolidge Auditorium, which is where today's guest, Cissa Paz, performed. Then in January of this year, we started inviting selected artists into the Folklife reading room after hours, after those big oak doors would swing shut every night. We would invite artists to perform their songs and tunes in front of the reference desk, kind of a riff on NPR's Tiny Desk concerts, and then putting those concerts online. Then when the coronavirus pandemic happened, we thought, how can we expand this so everybody who's stuck at home can participate? So we came up with the Stay at Home Archive Challenge. And I want to, oh yes, Binta has put up the link for the Stay at Home Archive Challenge in the chat window. So I want to invite all of you whom I know to be singers, because I've seen you and heard you sometimes singing, to take us up on the Archive Challenge and participate in our Stay at Home Archive Challenge. And the link is in the chat window. So the latest incarnation of the Archive Challenge, here we are on the daily antidote of song, inviting artists from all genres to teach the songs they found in our archive to you. We're on our second Archive Challenge partnership week with Washington Revels and Carpe Diem. And I want to thank Joe Rossi, our fearless host, along with Busy Graham, Executive Director of Carpe Diem, Greg Lewis, Executive Director Emeritus of the Washington Rebels. He's here today too. Hi, Greg. For allowing us to share our archival treasures and the artists we've discovered with all of you. So one of those artists is Cissa Paz, wonderful Brazilian musician that I heard performing at Washington Folk Festival in Glen Echo Park. How many of you have been to Washington Folk Festival? Fantastic free festival presented by the Folklore Society of Greater Washington. So years later, when we were looking for folks we could invite to the Archive Challenge in our Homegrown series, I thought about Cissa, and she agreed to be in our 2017 Archive Challenge sampler concert. Before that, as I said, she came to our Folklife reading room to dig into some of our Portuguese language collections, and more specifically, our Brazilian collections, since she is Brazilian and was raised in Rio de Janeiro. Cissa is a singer, a guitarist, and a songwriter. She's also a dancer who has, even at the level of competitive dancing, done samba and what else, Cissa? Samba and
I was muted, sorry. Salsa and modern dance, jazz and ballet.
yes. So she's bringing all the sensibilities and rhythms of dance into her music. And she's made a name for herself here in Washington, D.C. as a really eclectic performer who blends influences of our local jazz scene with her own Brazilian African indigenous background. And her debut album was nominated for 3 Washington area music awards, and the World Music Report wrote of her 2015 self-titled album that she evokes the joie de vivre of much that is beautiful about being Brazilian. So aren't you working on a new album now, Cissa?
I am. It's taking forever, but I got some funding, and it's finally on its way, and I'm hoping for spring.
Excellent.
Release. I'm really excited. Yeah,
Excellent.
and this song is gonna be on it.
Oh, you have no idea how happy that makes us. That is really wonderful.
Yeah.
Well,
I
when you
love
came,
it so much.
I love it too. It's sticky as anything. It keeps going
Yeah.
through my mind. And when you came in to do your research into the Folklife Reading Room, I suggested that you listen to field recordings from this collection that we've called the Discoteca Pública Municipal de Sao Paulo, or the Municipal Public Recordings Collection. We'll talk more about the collection later, but just to set the scene for what Cis is about to sing for you, I'll tell you that these field recordings were made in 1935 by a Brazilian musicologist and Renaissance man, Mario Andrade, under the auspices of the Folklore Research Mission. And they specifically meant for these field recordings to inspire creative musicians like Cissa to incorporate the folk music of Brazil into their compositions. So I think Andrade would be really pleased with the whole Archive Challenge idea and with what Cissa has done with this field recording. So this recording is from the Tambor de Mina, which is the local name for the religion of Dahomians, people from the kingdom of Dahomey, who were brought from Africa to Brazil as enslaved peoples. So, Cissa, how about teaching us this wonderful African Brazilian song, O Mina, Terê, Terê?
Should I sing a little part of it and then teach you a little?
Yes.
So it's very short. The lyrics are very short, and it's here in the chat. If you look up here, Joe put it up here, and it's very short. So the chorus you could say is O Mina, Terê, Terê, Mi saía paió paió, kind of the whole song. Mokoromi saíla botum, yapoaye yapoaya. Actually, no. I think the chorus would just be O Mina, Terê, Terê. It would just be. chorus. That's it. Terê, terê. Terê, terê. Oh, Mina, terê, terê. Misaya, paia, paia. Mokoromi, sai lá, botum. Yapoaia, yapoaia. Oh, Mina, terê, terê. Misaya, paia, paia. Mokoromi, sai lá, botum. Yapoaia, yapoaia. Terê, terê. Oh, terê, terê. One more time. Oh, Mina, terê, terê. Misaya, paia, paia. Mokoromi, sai lá, botum. Yapoaia, yapoaia. Oh, Mina, terê, terê. Misaya, paia, paia. Mokoromi, sai lá, botum. Yapoaia, yapoaia. Terê, terê. Oh, terê, terê. É de boi, ela deu. Dili, ela deu. 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 Terê, terê. Oh, terê, terê. Oh, terê, terê. Oh, terê, terê.
Woo, Cissa, that was so beautiful. Absolutely unbelievably beautiful. And I know lots of folks in the room are going to want to sing it again. So for anybody in the room who has to go now before the discussion, please know you can go back on Facebook Live and listen to it again and again. If you're able to stay through the discussion, we're going to sing it again at the end of the discussion. So we'd love to have you. But we know folks, some of folks have to get back to work. So hit the Facebook Live recording. You can play it actually over and over and over again and keep it going in your head all day long. Completely beautiful, Cissa. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
Jen, back to you for discussion.
Hey, okay, I think I'm unmuted. Yes.
Yeah.
Cissa, that was gorgeous. Just like the first time I heard you do it in the Coolidge Auditorium when all these really type A workaholic buzz kind of permeated the atmosphere. And the moment you started playing those gorgeous, chill samba chords and started singing, everybody's blood pressure plummeted to a kind of chill bliss level, and that your music kind of has that effect on people.
Thank you.
And I'd like to talk about your process of how you moved from listening to the field recording to adding what you added to the song. So Binta, if you could play for everybody the original field recording right now so you can hear the transformation that occurred in Cissa's mind and heart and hands. So let's hear the original field recording of Mina Terê Terê. Okay, that's a good sample of the field recording, which you'll notice is just a lead singer and other singers singing the melody, just the melody with her, somebody striking a bottle as percussion instrument, and a drum. No chords in it. First thing I want to do is ask Cissa if the words mean anything in particular, whether they're in dialect, whether they're in regular Portuguese, whether it's dialect, and how much of it you can understand.
I can't understand any of it.
So you're singing it phonetically.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds very familiar to me because in Brazil there's a lot of Yoruba influence, and I don't know if this is in Yoruba. I wouldn't say it sounds Yoruba at all. So
Mhm.
it could be Nago, it could be a different language, it could be a dialect of a mixture of the indigenous and the African. You know, it would be very interesting to know what exactly this language is, but I don't think it's necessarily completely Yoruba. It might be a mixture because
Okay.
it kind of sounds like it, and so a lot of it is, you know, the phonetics are very very familiar to me
Hmm.
because I do sing other songs in Yoruba, so that's not, it wasn't too bad. But I don't know what it says, and I have asked a Yoruba person if they know what the lyrics mean, and they couldn't figure it out either. And the
But
other
the
part,
the rhythm of them is wonderful.
yeah, yeah,
And
it's
that's kind of what characterizes this. And where they were doing this field work in Brazil in the 30s was in the north and northeast of Brazil, where the influences that were at play were, Afro-Brazilian, the Yoruba, Dahomian, Amerindian, indigenous people, with some Portuguese thrown in,
yeah,
Portuguese influence. And, you had this marvelous mixture, this syncretism that occurred, that was almost this, in some places, uh, combining shamanism and Catholicism.
yeah.
Um, and next time we sing it at the very end as we're going out, we've had a request to break it down, a little bit, couple of lines at a time, so people can sing along with more of it. So we'll do
Hmm.
that in more depth at the very end. But right now, I just wanted to uh, ask about your process of adding your own ideas to the field recording, which, as we can hear, was very bare bones. There were no chords. You added your own to that, what you call your special sauce, and it really is special. I love the chords that you chose. You made it into something that's easy on the modern ear. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about how that came to you to add the chords and whether it was hard to make out the words and
No, yeah, the words are pretty easy to make out. I mean, it's nice the recording because it's pretty clear, so I could
Mhm.
understand pretty well what they were saying. I mean, not literally, but I could make out what they were saying. So that was pretty good. The melody, I kind of had to play with it a little bit to match the harmony that I put on it. And once I put the harmony, I actually assimilated it to another song, like a Sade song. Everybody knows Sade, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so I've actually been playing them together. I've been playing because this song is so short. I've been playing this song with Sweetest Taboo when I play it at
Great.
my show. So and people are always like, "Oh wow, it's a new version. It's interesting because it's a mixture. You know, obviously it's a cover, but then it's not at the
Uh-huh.
same time." So I've been enjoying doing that because and it's simple. The harmony is simple. There's only three chords and
Right.
it's pretty simple, but
But
they're
they're not
nice.
simple chords.
No,
I mean, they're
yeah.
full of sevenths and
And nines,
sixths
yeah.
and ninths and
Right.
they're samba chords, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would say they're like chorinho chords or even though, yeah, or samba because they use a lot of these chords in samba, which to me is kind of second nature because in Brazil we
Sure.
use these chords so much and I would
Right.
like to embellish with these extra notes or some different notes. So it wasn't too crazy to do. So
And
yeah,
I
and
know
I
I
like it.
know that you grew up listening to this. You mentioned that your parents' record collection was your first musical influence, and you spent a lot of long hours listening to artists like Caetano Veloso, Gilberto Gil, Elis Regine, and other Brazilian greats.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, there were no musicians in my family, and so that was
Wow.
difficult for me. I had to learn everything kind of on my own or with friends or taking classes, which I didn't do until recently. Started taking like music theory classes and really understanding what I was playing because I was already playing these
Uh-huh.
difficult chords, but I didn't know that they were difficult. They were just, Brazilian music has a lot of
Yeah.
chords. You have to learn them. And then I started to understand, a little bit more about music theory and so forth. Only more recent, in the last 5 or 6 years, is when I started studying, with a teacher and really figuring it all out in terms of the paper stuff, because music is innate. Music is
Uh-huh.
comes from the gods, in my opinion. It's something that everybody can do. Even if they don't know music theory, they can still do music. So I think it's part of that, part of that whole thing of learning from nature and then getting a little bit more fancy along the way.
You've traveled a lot, haven't you? And picked up things along the way. I notice your bio includes something about how you fell in love with the music of Cape Verde.
Yeah, I love the music from Cape Verde and also Angola and Mozambique. Because they're Portuguese speaking countries, we assimilate with them very easily, and the influence that they had is very similar to what we had. So it's interesting parallels. So it's just fascinating to me to see how they evolved musically and how we did, and how we've crossed over, and now a lot of us are actually working together and doing things that are similar. Brazilians have always done very Africanated music, and now they're using more contemporary African music in their new compositions, which is wonderful.
Uh-huh.
It's like going full circle. So it's been really cool to see that.
So the Brazilian genres that you grew up hearing, you mentioned samba, of course, but other ones that I'm not familiar with, afoxé,
Afoxé.
afoxé,
Mm-hmm.
foro,
Forró.
maracatu,
Yeah. Maracatu.
and of course Brazilian pop music.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. And it's funny because we say Brazilian pop music and you would think of American pop music, and it's just completely not
yeah,
not the same at all. It does get played in the radio, but it's much more contemporary and rootsy than the American pop music, which is great too, but it's just different. It's a different vibe, it's
right.
more, it's got a more traditional kind of feeling in terms of the Brazilian pop music. Like Caetano Veloso, Gilberto Gil, that's considered MPB, Brazilian popular music.
Uh-huh. So it's much more connected to its roots in a way.
Yeah, not that we don't have stuff that's not so connected. We do. We have sertanejo, we have, I mean, funky. We have all kinds of stuff that are a lot more modern and more simple, more a way to assimilate with the public very easily, where people get very stuck on these rhythms and things, which are actually cool. The only thing I don't like about them is the lyrics. Sometimes it's kind of
Yeah.
trashy.
And that is something that you as an artist get to be a curator and decide what you will and will not sing and
Yeah,
perform.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How old were you when you moved to the US?
17.
17. Wow.
Yeah, it was rough.
So when you moved here, you had more falling in love to do, because then you heard jazz and go-go and soul and
Yeah.
hip hop.
Yeah, exactly. All of that got thrown into the mix for sure. I love soul music. I love R&B. I love jazz. All the amazing singers. I mean, those are some of my icons. So that definitely got thrown in. I still feel like my style is very Brazilian. It's just something that got stuck to me, even though
It's
I
baked
came.
into you.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's baked into my genetics or something. So my style is very Brazilian. But I've been able to use some jazz influences and some soul influences, and those things really inspire me to do
Hmm.
things that sometimes are a little bit different than straightforward Brazilian music.
And did we have a question from one of our audience members today? How did you learn English so well?
So my dad was a diplomat and my stepdad is American.
Uh-huh.
So and he's been with my mom since I was 6. So I've been
Uh-huh.
speaking English almost since that age.
Ah,
Yeah,
so
maybe
that
even
is
earlier.
that is second nature to you too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I want to go back to the idea of this field recording, and could we uh, could we get the image of the CD where Cissa found this? Uh, up on the screen and share it with everyone. Um, a selection of the field recordings from this collection were released in 1997 on a CD called the Discoteca Collection. And this is one of the 6 Endangered Music Project CD series that was produced by Grateful Dead drummer Mickey Hart, along with the Folklife Center's founding director, Alan Jabbour. Now, Mickey and Alan, so Mickey's production company and the American Folklife Center originally released these 6 on the Rykodisc label, and that label is now defunct, but happily Smithsonian Folkways has reissued them. So you can get all the music, all the field recordings that were selected for this CD, which is a kind of highlights of the Discoteca collection, you can get on Smithsonian Folkways, and we can send you the link for that tomorrow if you'd like the whole CD. This collection came to the Library of Congress as part of an exchange program between the State Department and Brazilian folklorists during the wartime 1940s, when there was a keen interest in this cultural political movement called Pan-Americanism. And Charles Seeger, who's the father of, of course, Peggy Seeger, who sang yesterday in the Daily Antidote, and Mike Seeger and Pete Seeger, their father, was very involved in this cultural political movement called Pan-Americanism. And there were a lot of cultural exchanges. And as part of this cultural exchange, we loaned equipment to the Brazilian folklorists to go out and document this traditional music in the north and northeast of Brazil. So the links that this field recording Cissa performed, very, very important links to the Library of Congress and to the history of the Pan-American movement. So Cissa, I see that it's about 12:34, and it's about time to be winding up. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we sing the song again?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Thank you for inviting me for this wonderful challenge. It was really wonderful to work with you guys, and I really appreciate that you're doing this work. And it's wonderful. Yeah, it's really wonderful. So thank you.
It's wonderful to have you.
Yeah, thank you. And please keep in touch. You can find me on all the links are there. And we're having a little reggae show this Friday with Rafael Pondé, another Brazilian musician. So if you want to see us, it's going to be on Facebook. You can find it on my page.
Great. Yeah. We have a question from the Executive Director Emeritus of Washington Revels about how what you did with this field recording reminds him of the feeling from Astrid Gilberto, Girl from Ipanema, etc. How do those two relate? Is it the chords? Is it the rhythm? Greg Lewis would like to know.
It's probably because I sing it kind of softly, and that's her style, It's all actually it's João Gilberto's style, who is her father, who passed away recently, sadly. But he is the one who created this style of bossa nova singing that's very kind of understated and la 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 la, very chill.
Yeah,
Makes you feel
and it's a very straight tone with no vibrato.
Yeah.
Very, there's a lot of breath in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so wonderfully relaxing.
Right. And I don't always sing like that, and all my songs are not like that at all, because I do a lot of more dancey music. But I do really enjoy that style too. And it's not straight up bossa nova either, because I'll sing bossa nova usually when I do a gig or something. People ask me to do bossa nova, and I'll do some bossa nova. But on my regular shows, I usually don't do a lot of bossa nova. I do more samba and more upbeat kind of rhythms, but it's a beautiful style, and again, this was created by João Gilberto, this particular understated style.
Thank you for answering Greg's question. And I know that all of us are keen to come out and hear you when we can all gather together again for live music. I know I'll be coming out to listen to you because it's just, hearing you is just so good for my soul.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to I want folks to be able to keep this feeling of this rhythm and this chill song with us as we go through our day. So I'm going to ask you if you would go through the lyrics line by line and teach
Sure.
us. And
Sure.
then this last time we'll sing it one more time before we say goodbye and go about our work.
Yeah. So the way that starts, it's O Mina Terê Terê. O
Omina.
Mina Terê Terê. O Mina Terê Terê. O Mina Terê Terê. O Mina Terê Terê. Yeah. And then the second line goes Misaia Paio Paio. Misaia Paio Paio. Misaia Paio Paio. Misaia Paio Paio. Then let's do both of them. O Mina Terê Terê. Misaia Paio Paio. Again. O Mina Terê Terê. Misaia Paio Paio. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Yep. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Mokoromi Saila Botum. One more. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Let's start from the beginning. O Mina Terê Terê. Misaia Paio Paio. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Yapoaie, Yapoaia. Yapoaie, Yapoaia. Yapoaie, Yapoaia. Yapoaie, Yapoaia. From the start. O Mina Terê Terê. Misaia Paio Paio. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Yapoaie, Yapoaia. Terê Terê. Oh. Terê Terê. Probably singing the different key. Oh. Let's try to do just that part, all of us. O Mina Terê Terê. Misaia Paio Paio. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Yapoaie, Yapoaia. O Mina Terê Terê. Misaia Paio Paio. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Yapoaie, Yapoaia. One more time. O Mina Terê Terê. Misaia Paio Paio. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Yapoaie, Yapoaia. O Mina Terê Terê. Misaia Paio Paio. Mokoromi Saila Botum. Yapoaie, Yapoaia. Terê Terê. Oh. Terê Terê. Now the last part goes É de boia ladeo. É de boia ladeo. É de boia ladeo. De liala ladeo. In Portuguese from Brazil, not in Portugal and not in the north of Brazil, but in most of Brazil, when you have a D or T before an E or an I. Only before an E or an I. Then you pronounce it as G or Chi. So if it's a D, it's G. If it's a T, it's Chi. I don't know if this is a Yoruba thing though, but probably through the influence, you know, they've started doing this as well. But I'm not sure if this was actually influenced from Yoruba or not, because in Portugal they don't do this. So I'm guessing it is something that came from Africa. So that's why we pronounce it like that. So Edibo Yaladeo. Dili ala Yaladeo. There's a Y missing there. So Edibo Yaladeo. Dili ala Yaladeo. That sounds very Yoruba to me, that part. Edibo Yaladeo. Dili ala Yaladeo. 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 Tere tere. Oh. Tere tere. Let's go from the start. Oh, Mina tere tere. Misaya paya paya. Mokoromi sai la botum. Yapoye yapoya. Oh, Mina tere tere. Misaya paya paya. Mokoromi sai la botum. Yapoye yapoya. Tere tere. Oh. Tere tere. Oh, Mina tere tere. Misaya paya paya. Mokoromi sai la botum. Yapoye yapoya. Oh, Mina tere tere. Misaya paya paya. Mokoromi sai la botum. Yapoye yapoya. Tere tere. Oh. Tere tere. Edibo Yaladeo. Dili ala Yaladeo. 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 Tere tere. Oh. Tere tere. Oh. Tere tere. Oh.
Thank you so much,
No
Cissa.
problem. I hope you guys got it.
Thank you for the blessings of Brazilian chill to help us go about our day with more calm and more
Yes.
joy.
Definitely. Please
And-
enjoy and take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.
And I'm going to turn it back over to Joe Rossi.
Thanks so much, Cissa. Thanks again.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Jen, so much for the great hosting, and Cissa for the absolutely beautiful music. That was so peace-inducing. I'm so glad we got a chance to actually sing through the whole thing, and now we have a place we can go back to and practice it to actually really get it down. And I'm looking forward to being able to join you in some of your upcoming stuff, and hopefully, I think you said Friday you have something, so hopefully we can see you
Friday.
there.
Brazilian
Great.
birthday.
That's great. Thank you. So we'll put the links to that in tomorrow's email. We've also had some requests from folks to get the guitar chords from you if we can at some point so that we can put those in the email tomorrow too so people can play it at home.
Yes.
Thank you, Cissa. That was beautiful. And thank you to everybody in the room for staying for our Folklore 101 class on Brazilian music today. Thank you again, Library of Congress and American Folklife Center Archive Challenge Week hosts, Jen and Steve. Cissa, we hope to see you again. I do also want to shout out Rick Pagliere and Elise Witt, who are both in the room. They're both singing with us this week, so please join again when they're here. And thanks again to everybody in the room. Deborah, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Goodbye. And Alan, thanks for staying. Goodbye. Great to see you. Kathy, great to sing with you again today. Thank you. Kathleen, thank you so much. Great to see you again. Karen, thank you so much. Great to see you. And let's see, Fred and Lynn and Caroline, thank you so much. And Bonnie and Luda, thank you so much. Great to see you guys. Really enjoyed singing with you all. Thank you, Janet and Peter. And thank you, Anne. And thank you, Carolyn and Greg and Aloysius. Glad you made it today. Martha, glad to see you too. Susan, thank you so much. Harriet, thanks for being here. And Gary, and hello, Elise. We can't wait to sing with you. Thank you so much for being here today. Jamie, thank you so much. And Kevin, I don't think I saw you guys on the front end. I'm glad you're here today. And thank you also to Nicola and Dan, Janet, Sheila, thanks so much. Sandy, great to see you. I definitely didn't see you on the front end. Steve, thank you again for being here with us today. Annette, glad to see you too. And Adele and Doug, thank you so much. And if I'm missing anybody, oh, I see folks off video. David and Deborah and Nil. And Valerie, thank you so much. Just a reminder, if you're new to us, you can pop your email in the chat to me and I'll get you on the list so you can find out what's going on as we go on and on through this program. Francette, thank you. I didn't see you and I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining again. Fred and Carol, Alan, Rick, thank you. It's great to see you so much. Thanks. Looking forward to singing with you this week too. Oh, I forgot to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook Live. Goodbye, Facebook. You got to get through the whole goodbyes with all of us in the room. Thank you to Mary out there and to Tiggs and to the other folks I saw who were here. Thanks for being